Then we have my favourite image from Kamikaze. So we're in the poem now, and we're having this description of a kamikaze pilot who is almost mystically pulled to sacrifice himself for his country, and he's flying towards his target. He's on his one-way journey, and halfway there, the narrator of the poem, the voice, the speaker, suggests that he looked down. And what I want you to think about here is this is what's going on inside the pilot's head. The pilot is having mental conflict. He's not sure in his own head if this is really what he wants to do. He's having mental conflict. Okay. And she describes it like this, that the fishes in the water, and fishes is correct here because fishes is the plural of many groups of fish. So imagine lots and lots of groups of fish. And if you've seen the film Finding Nemo, where all of the fish form like the arrow and tell Marlin, is it called Marlin? I think so, the way to go. I imagine it like that. And so I imagine all of the fish in their groups all swimming together. And all of them swimming together like this. I imagine it like this. All of them swimming. And as they swim, and they keep making this pattern, swimming and swimming. And she describes it like this, like a huge flag, waved one way, then the other, in a figure of 8. So we've really got to understand that number one, it looks almost like a flag waving. When you wave a flag, it kind of ripples like that. So like this idea of a ripple also links to the water. And then it kind of looks like a figure of 8. So the figure of 8 is a very specific symbol. So the figure of 8 is the symbol of infinity. Okay? If something is infinity, it is constant. It actually doesn't stop infinity, it goes on forever. But if we really think of this image of a figure of 8, you've got to watch it to understand it. That's why poetry is such a mental medium. You've got to really think about the image. Let's watch the image. One way, then the other. Now I want you to think about the pilot's mind. His mind is going one way, then the other. This image is used to represent his mind. What does it suggest about his mind? It suggests he is constantly changing his mind. His mind goes one way, then the other. Let's think about what these two ways might be. Towards what? One way is his one-way journey. First, one way, his one-way journey. What is the one way towards? One way towards glory, towards honour, yeah, but also towards sacrifice and death. So if he chooses glory and honour, he chooses sacrifice and death. What's the other way then? What could he choose instead? Instead of death, he could choose life. But what will life come with? If he doesn't choose death, what does he not get? He does not get glory, he does not get honour. So he gets dishonour and shame. If he chooses life, if he chooses to live, if he chooses his connection to his family, to his life, to his personal identity, to the fish in the ocean that he used to, his father, his grandfather, his father and the narrator's grandfather used to ride. He clearly comes from a fishing family. Then he chooses dishonour and shame. And that is the kind of conflict this figure of 8 symbolises, the mental conflict of the pilot. Now, in the Charge the Light Brigade, we talked about how the 600, the soldiers, like war caused the level of dehumanisation that meant they lost their identity. In this poem, the soldier had a really strong identity. He carried his samurai sword with him, even though the plane was the weapon. Whereas as the journey progresses in this poem, it's almost like there is a mental conflict with this identity, and it is a conflict of identity and of purpose, of choosing sacrifice and glory and honour, or life and shame and dishonour. And that really talks about the physical impact of war, choosing to die, but also the mental and psychological impact of war. Just like how in exposure the brains of the soldiers ache, there's a physical inside the body pain, but there's also a mental and psychological suffering.